I'm back, everybody. Hopefully that fixes the audio issues. But yes, the streaming gods decided that to try and make me quit again, they decided to go after my internet again. Gotta love it, don't you? Fuck me, I hate this system sometimes. Ugh. This is where... Fuck me. This is what drives me fucking nuts sometimes. I swear to God, I'm gonna lose my head one day. I'm gonna lose my head trying to do this fucking job. But I'm not gonna quit. I'm too fucking stubborn, and I just... I fucking hate it sometimes. I fucking hate it sometimes. Like, I mean, what the flying fuck? Anyway, like I said, I'm gonna take a break from gaming. I'm gonna do something I saw today. I know it's gonna amaze a lot of people. I know it's bad, Coob. I had to restart everything again. We're gonna watch some videos for a while, and I know just what to get started with. Something that just got released today. Fucking A. The pig's out. Alright, pig, show me what you got. I am already worried. People want the pig? Well, the pig is back. Okay. Let's know it, and I'm also going to say this. Yep. Yeah, they're back. I'm bringing them back. What the fuck? Let's do it. Fucking A. People want to see me get yelling about shit anyway, and plus I did name this as history, tanks, memes, and war crimes. So, I guess this counts. Okay. Let's see what the pig has to say about drones and tanks.
Hello, I'm Laserpig.
Long time no see,
my
pig.
inbox has been inundated with links to this article. Britain's Challenger 3 might already be outdated. This is brought to us by Military Watch magazine, an opinion blog with questionable origins masquerading as a news source that once proudly stated that Ukraine had lost 27 of its donated M1A1 Abrams tanks at the Battle of Avdiivka and surrounding areas back in 2023, based entirely on Russian propaganda numbers. It is now almost 2026, and the number of lost M1 Abrams tanks confirmed at the time of recording stands at 22, 3 of which have been returned to service. The article is a watered-down version of an opinion piece released by the UK Defence Journal, stripped of nuance, with references added in about how Russian and Chinese tanks were just, oh, so much better designed, and then given a snappy clickbait title. The objective here should be obvious to anyone, but propaganda works because you want it to be true. And remember, only boomers read the headlines and believe them, not you, because obviously you're a smart boy and you read the article.
Bitch, I don't even trust the news, so do not condescend me, swine! Do not condescend me! I don't, believe me, if it's written in a newspaper, here's the thing, it's either some guy trying to fucking loot, here's the thing, let me give everyone a little tidbit on the media. Mainstream or otherwise. 90% of almost all news media, half of them... No, Coob. I'm sorry. Coob, you're my friend. I love you, my friend. I love you as a friend. I love you as a friend. I love you as a friend. I'm sorry. I don't care what country you're from. All media, every media, from left, right, center, everywhere, there's two types of people. Two types. There's either the guy who wants you to get outraged just so you buy more paper. That's yellow journalism. Remember the Maine. It was Spain. It was all that. That's yellow journalism. All they want to do is get you angry so you buy more copies. Damn the consequences. And the other half are just strong male, alpha male, just, I want to be strong, but I'm too scared to join the military. You know what? Not even alpha male. They're meninists. Meninists. I'm going to pull a note out of Nostalgia Critic's ass. They are meninists. So, to those meninists who go crazy, because I can't use the SI word here on Twitch at least, and I want to still be able to work no matter how much they're trying to get me to quit. Yeah, they just want to fawn over Russia and China because because men are allowed to be men. No, they're allowed to be in the military and die for the great leader. No, not that one. Moving on.
Didn't hear.
So I don't trust anybody.
To address the original.
You want to know what I trust? I trust my photo. I trust most of the photographs, and when I can tell they're not AI, and you can easily tell what's AI and now not. Here's the thing. A lot of people say like, "Oh my God, AI! It's so confusing. It looks so real." Let me just say this. I'm saying this right now. If you actually take the time to look at things, you can easily discern what's AI. As long as you really take a minute and take a look. Any ideas why? Any idea why? Why what, Delphix? And Delphix! It's Schlug now. Schlug. That name is gone. Please, This is what I knew was going to happen. Everyone's still about Joe. It's over. I've moved on. I've evolved. Please acknowledge that. Please. Please. I swear to God. Coop. Okay. Yeah. And Coop. And Schlong. Oh, but either way, yeah, it's... Believe me, Coop, I fully respect and acknowledge your pain. I understand. But here's the thing. 90% of the people that do this are just people who just don't understand. But then there's always that 1% of people who just, still want me to go back to the old days. Want me to be a webcam streamer. And want me to react to only ponies and stuff. And do one video a goddamn year. Because they think I have a regular 9 to 5 like anybody. Who gets work nowadays? Anyway, we need to watch how the pig is going to yell about how a bunch of fucking asshole news medias are just being assholes. Moving on.
Defense Journal, which, though posted by its chief founder and editor, George Allison, is actually the work of one Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford, the chief creative officer of his own opinion. Crawford is a former tanker with the 4th Royal Tank Regiment who left the army in 1999, and has even written a book about it. I like Crawford. I've read his book. But unfortunately, he has become the latest victim to something I call HDDS. Or Herder Drones Syndrome.
Herder
Believe me, I feel you, Coob. Faced by professional military opinions.
Okay, let's hear
this.
Have
a surface level knowledge on drone warfare, but none of the actual deep understanding on how that warfare has rapidly developed over the past few years to understand how drones may affect things in a future war, or even how it's affecting things currently in Ukraine. Symptoms of HDDS include flashy clickbait titles that proclaim any new technology from tanks to jets is doomed because why spend billions of dollars on a weapon system if a $20 drone can take it out? It makes casual references to the ever-increasing loss
to which I always say to those people, here's the thing. Those people who claim about that multi-million-dollar bullcrap and, why is it $1 million with a $20 drone? Number one, who, in what fucking reality are you living in where a drone is $20? At least even a decent drone is $20. If you're getting even if you're doing a DIY kit, maybe. But I'm sorry. Ugh. But again, to these fucking assholes, like, why does it cost millions of dollars? Herder. Oh my God, shut up. Number one, if that's the case, why don't we just abandon assault rifles and pistols and missiles and just go back to beating people with sticks and stones? Why don't we do, and in fact, why even wear body armor? Let's just go back to loincloths. Let's go back, fuck that. Why do we need clothes in general? Let's all just be naked. No, let me predict the entire video. Let me do this because I'm sick of this shit. This is how I vent. Oh, Timo drones? Fair. Okay.
Western tanks on the Ukrainian front makes grandiose gestures that inflate the actual capability of small FPV drones and surreptitiously...
I don't know, Lilac. I don't know if I'm good. Lilac, I am a streamer. I am a male furry streamer. I am also living in an era where I'm worried about my girlfriend, my friends, because they're all on the fucked up... Life is difficult. This is how I vent. This is how I vent. This is how I lose my mind. Plus, random. You come here for the chaos. All of you come here for the fucking chaos. Lord, I have a punching bag. You don't want to know whose face is on it. Well, there's actually multiple faces on it. Of all the people I fucking hate, there's a lot. It really, at times I wonder if that thing looks more like a piñata or a fucking paper mache type bullshit. But mostly, I think the main thing is I'm tired. Yes, Random, and they're back. They are back, but this... Yeah, Random, this is why I always tell people. Here's the thing. I'm still reacting in this way, and things are still this crazy. Nobody just wants to show up because they're not pony shit. Or it's not over a fucking train. That's why I kept telling you, give this a chance, people. And yes, in terms of everything else, anyway, we're here to talk about tanks, not talk about how fucked up my streaming schedule is. Next.
Western tanks are too big and too heavy. It ignores the actual opinions of Ukrainian tank crews and fails to take into account that of the 95 Western tanks that have been lost on the Ukrainian front, very few of those were actually taken out by drones.
Yes.
Of that 95, 73 were highly outdated models that have either since been replaced or are in the process of being replaced.
Right.
Out of those 73, 71 were models built before 1990, and 21 of those were tanks designed in the 1960s. The actual lessons here is that supplying Ukraine with outdated tanks, limited training, and none of the regular support elements typically enjoyed by other Western nations that are often seen as mandatory to keep those tanks in the fight has meant that their effectiveness has been limited. Ukraine's insight into how these tanks operate in battle conditions are of incredible value, but it does not strike a parallel with what would happen if Germany, Britain, Sweden, or America went to war with Russia. And keep in mind, even under the less than ideal conditions Ukraine fights in, with a comedic list of tanks from various periods and in various states of repair at the time of recording, for every one Western tank they have lost, 43.7 Russian tanks have been destroyed. The second part of HDDS is completely overvaluing the capability and cost of the drones. There are a lot of drones on the Ukrainian front with a lot of different capabilities, none of which cost $20. The drones you buy in your local hobby store cannot simply be fitted with a bomb and driven into a tank. The $20 drones from AliExpress that everyone points to have limited flight range, limited battery life, and most importantly, limited payload.
I know, Blah. And I know, Blah. That's why I literally am also streaming on YouTube. Yes, I have a YouTube. For all my Twitch followers who are sticking around, I know what Twitch has been doing. I know what Twitch has been doing, and I have definitely given them a... It's one yeah, YouTube is probably the best thing to go. Literally, it's not hard to find me. Same name. It's easy. I'm easy to find. So yeah, if you want to message me, for all my Twitch followers who seem to be unable to send me messages, it's Twitch being Twitch. Come follow me on come subscribe to my YouTube channel because you'll get the same amount of bullshit. But also, I still keep on Twitch because for some reason, you guys will still be able to sound alerts. So there is that. Either way, continuing on. But yes.
Can't just throw a kilogram of explosive onto something that can barely lift its own battery weight. They can also be jammed quite easily or traced and followed back to the operator without the operator even being aware that that's happening due to the litany of safety software that these things have due to government regulations. This was something the Ukrainians learned very, very quickly when they tried this tactic back in 2014 and then again in 2022 when the Russians either jammed those drones,
that is
control
true,
of them, or sent one flying back towards the operator, or just showed up with a full assault team and blew them the fuck away. Drones need to be heavily modified before they can be used effectively on the battlefield.
Yes.
Images you've seen of them dropping grenades into the open hatches of vehicles are, for the better part, propaganda. Tanks don't sit around not
Yeah,
moving
even
the
I've always
battlefield
been like,
with
yeah,
their
that's probably
hatches
just
open
showing
unless
them,
they've
that's
already
probably just them,
disabled
you know,
and
look
or
cool.
abandoned or not
It's
expected
meant to
to
do
be
it. It's
in
an
combat.
unrealistic
The
thing.
simplest of
So.
drones currently on the Ukrainian front cost in excess of $400 to make each, and that is with volunteers, 3D printers, and importing the cheapest made parts from Temu. And these factories don't run at a profit. They absorb the full cost through donations, not selling the drones to the military. Things you can get away with in the kind of war Ukraine is fighting, but not something that can be easily replicated in a World War III situation. China might have some opinions if we start trying to buy drone parts from them if we went to war with, say for example, China. An entire industry would therefore need to be replicated, with drone factories producing their own parts, and that comes at significant cost. In the UK, a vast number of drone factories were set up in the hopes of cashing in on the drone military craze, and most of them have failed to expand beyond a single office, 3D printers, small teams of eager 20-somethings, and a dream, simply because, well, firstly, the actual cost of setting up mass production is far greater than first anticipated, especially when one realizes that it's not just drone parts they need, but camera equipment, night vision, thermals, long-range battery packs.
They're also forgetting this. The reason China's been able to manufacture these drones and parts at significantly at the rate they're going and all that stuff is one thing that a lot of people just don't like to mention because they're afraid of the Great Dragon pissing them off, getting pissed off at them. I, on the other hand, have no such fears because I am a shitty, no-good YouTuber that no one likes because I'm a furry. The great reason that China's able to do all this shit is because if anyone so much as complains about, like, oh, I can't believe I have to work this many hours to produce this much, and I don't like my paycheck, is if you complain about that, you get a visit from the secret police. And then you're either re-educated and then come back smiling a little extra wider because you remember what the fuck they did to you at re-education school, or you just never come back. And no one asks questions. It's amazing that living in a free democratic world, you have to obey things like, oh, I don't know, unions and human rights laws, and actually pay your employees a living fucking wage. So, yeah, there is that. Moving on. So, I will just say this. To the West, keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to keep up with China. Just keep up ahead of Russia. And we're doing that, so keep up the good work, guys. Keep up the good work. You're appreciated.
Equipment capable of resisting interference, triangulation, and interception, most of which is beyond the capability of these companies. Potentially, you could knock the price of production down quite significantly if you got all that set up, and you ignore the cost of paying people who have to put it all together, who are not going to work for free. Trust me, it's very tedious and monotonous work. And then the realization that in fact you're a company, and at some point you're going to have to make a profit. All of this is how a $400 drone becomes a $10,000 drone. Even then, those $400 drones carry about enough munitions to kill a person or knock out light vehicles or generally unarmored targets. They did this to one of the trucks I was raising money for last year. That truck was fucked, but everyone inside walked away with their lives.
That's
Tanks
good.
are traditionally quite a bit more armored than a truck and generally tend to survive hits a little bit better. I mentioned Ukrainian tank crews earlier. In some of these interviews, they have talked about how tanks generally survive multiple hits from drones because the Russians don't always have access to the heavier munitions munitions required to take them out. Those are considerably more expensive, harder to produce, and considerably more rare, allowing those tanks to race into drone hotspots, take out their target, and withdraw before those munitions arrive. A good example of one of those munitions is the famous Russian Lancet. In a full-time war economy, one of these costs around $20,000 to manufacture, or to put that in perspective, the cost of 5 artillery shells. This is of course assuming Russia is telling the truth when it gives these numbers up, and aren't
we
just
know they're
calculating the cost of materials and not including labor, setup, or the cost of the launcher. The thing about the Lancet is it's a drone in name only. It's technically a loitering munition which have been around for quite some time. Every country has been developing them for the past 10 years, and some of those were given to Ukraine. China has even produced a tank which fires them, much to the delight of this article's author. This is not unusual. Future developments of both the Leopard and the Challenger series will have loitering munition capability, and it was a prime feature of the KF-51 Panther. The Switchblade, currently in use by both the US and the Ukrainian army, costs around $60,000 per unit, with the more dedicated anti-tank version costing somewhere in the region of $100,000 per unit.
Hi, mid-production and quite drunk Laserpig here. So I'm editing this next part out because I kind of went off on this bizarre long tangent about the technical differences between the Switchblade and the Lancet, because for some reason we still live in a world where people who comment on the defense industry still do not understand that there might be a difference in quality between a $20,000 drone built cheaply out of off-the-shelf parts mostly imported from China and a $60,000 drone built by a company that used to build unmanned spy planes for the CIA back in the 1980s.
I remember that. It was fucking cool. I have to see a video on that, because yeah, that shit was cool.
But then I need to remember that's the logic of people who know throwing a grenade at a tank won't work, but think if you attach that grenade to a drone, it magically becomes an anti-tank missile. And my fan base is a mite more intelligent than that. Or at least I like to think so. So outside of the technical specifications, what the Switchblade can do over the Lancet in terms of self-scouting, camera quality, stealthiness, general precision versus moving targets, is irrelevant in the current context of trying to prove that cheap drones have made tanks obsolete, which is presumably what this video was at one point about when I sat down to write it, and is now, well, it's this. What you need to know is the Switchblade can be carried by one soldier in a backpack, thrown on the ground and then fired like a mortar within seconds. It's got infrared as standard. It can do a whole bunch of really clever things.
Let's take a look at this. We saw that the Lancier had to be carried on a truck. The Switchblade can be thrown into a backpack. And here's the crazy thing. The truck can only carry 2 Lanciers. I think with the right kind of backpack, you could fit at least 8 of these things. So, what do you want? 2 very large missiles that, like loitering munitions that might just be able to take out a tank? Or 8 things that might carry out all the trucks carrying the fuel, ammo, and stuff. That's the whole thing about the drone warfare, and that's why Ukraine has been winning the war. Or at the very least, putting the Russians into stalemate. The thing is, here's the big thing about the article, especially when it comes to the people who write these articles. These are the guys who look at tanks and they only look at the tanks. They don't look at the crews. This is the big difference here. The people writing these articles, and as Laserpig said, they're not talking to the crews, like the Ukrainian tank crews. They're talking about the tanks themselves and imagining them as autonomous vehicles. Yeah, they don't give a shit about the crews because they're like, oh, I would never be caught dead in one of these tanks. They see video, they see stuff like the tanks blowing up. Oh yes, there is a very big difference. There's a very big difference, Delphix. But yeah, so they don't even think about the crews. They don't think about the people. These are people who would rather sit back and watch their people. They are the people that think that they're not going to be on the front lines. They think that, oh, I'm an intellectual. I'm too important to be wasted on the front lines. I'm going to sit back and simply tell where to send the peasants to die. That is these people. Zelensky is not fighting like that. Russia is fighting like that. They are throwing wave after wave of people and sending them to die and hoping numbers win the day. Zelensky isn't fighting like that. Zelensky is fighting the long run. He's not fighting them. He's honestly pulling a Data. Zelensky is fighting like Data. He knows he can't beat Putin flat out, so he's fighting him to stalemate. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the, you know what, fuck it. You know what, I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care. This is my video. We're doing it my way. Hang on one second. I'm going to show you all a little bit of a point. Let's see. Let's see here. Data.
Things like guide other switchblades onto
Now!
targets or
I will get
coordinate with other drones.
I will get to you in a minute. Oh, I hate it when it does that. Let's see. So basically, so here's the thing. So in this scene, Data is playing against a strategist. And the strategist is an arrogant piece of shit. So in the episode, he was an arrogant piece of shit. And so Data tried to beat him once before, and he was playing to win. And that's where the strategist beat him. So Data changed up his strategy. And I'll let the scene speak for itself. One thing I do love is watching this dude sweat. And I just love Data. That little crook of the smile. Fucking Data. And then...
Why have you suspended the game?
Because this is not a rematch. You have made a mockery of me.
And now I will let Data explain how Zelensky's beating
No,
them.
sir. It is a stalemate.
No game of stratagema has ever gone this high.
What did you do?
I simply altered my premise for playing the game.
Explain.
Working under the assumption that Kohlrami was attempting to win, it is reasonable to assume that he expected me to play for the same goal.
You didn't.
No. I was playing for a standoff, a draw. While Kohlrami was dedicated to winning, I was able to pass up obvious avenues of advancement and settle for a balance. Theoretically, I should be able to challenge him indefinitely.
Then you have beaten him.
It is a matter of perspective, Doctor. In the strictest sense, I did not win.
Data.
I busted him up.
And that is how Zelensky is winning. This is how the war is being won. Zelensky isn't fighting to win against Russia. He's fighting to keep them off. And that's how they've stayed alive so long. Russia's fighting to take territory. We are discussing why Russia is losing the war in Ukraine and why a bunch of shitheels who write news articles are a bunch of idiots who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. On any sense of the word. I'm also discussing why Zelensky has been able to hold out as long as he has against the also superior Putin and Russian armor. Simple. Zelensky knows he doesn't have the numbers to win, so he's going to use the numbers he has to just drive the Russians mad. And that's how he stayed alive so long. He's not making... He makes little advancements here and there just to keep the Russians interested and a little on their toes. But yeah. Anyway, back to the pig.
Like guide other switchblades onto targets or coordinate with other drones and have multiple switchblades hit multiple different targets simultaneously, you know, to lower the chances of your enemy going, "Oh no, a drone!" and then doing something really wild like taking cover. The Lancet does none of that. It's basically just a TV missile on a catapult. I mean, it's still an effective weapon, and we'll get onto that. But the reason...
Don't worry.
is
Yeah,
to get in
wartime
with
is
the tank,
wartime,
do
so
the
yeah.
job, and then get out before
Everyone
these
has
things
emergency
show
powers in
up,
wartime.
is because the Lancet is a very clumsy
I
weapon.
love the
Whereas a
Republic.
truck to
I
move
love
around,
democracy.
It's quite large, it's quite heavy, it needs 2 people to set it up, and all of that takes time. And you are vulnerable that entire time you're doing this. You're vulnerable to drones spotting you. You're vulnerable to
Actually, better yet, Bean, I'll say this. Russia's playing 40K. Ukraine is playing 40K. Russia's playing checkers. If you know what, believe me, Bean, playing tabletop 40K, far more like need of skill, strategy, and shit than chess could ever be. Believe me, chess is beginner level strategy. Chess is beginner level shit. Once you get into Warhammer, then it becomes a real nightmare.
and you're just tempting the high Mars of fate. And there is some evidence that Ukrainian troops have been deliberately spooking the Russians by showing up with Western tanks in order to attract those weapons into an area that they're watching in order to kill the operators while they're trying to set these weapons up. To try and alleviate this, Russia has developed these good-to-go multi-launch systems. But again, that needs fixing onto a vehicle, and then you're just adding more complexity to the cost. And I think this, among many other things, is a good example of the constantly spiraling costs of running a weapons project like this. Any weapon system you develop, regardless of how cheaply, is going to be up against a constant war between offense and defense. Your
Yep.
cheap weapon is going to be super effective at first when no one is expecting it and have no ways to defend against it, that as they develop new systems or techniques or tactics against this cheap weapon, then that system is going to gradually become less effective over time and therefore must evolve to remain potent. The Lancet has gone through multiple versions, each time trying to increase its lethality or counter the defenses Ukraine has developed specifically against it, and I'll go on to some of those later. But needless to say, that means the Lancet, though it is estimated at costing roughly $20,000 to manufacture via various Russian reports, it was offered at export at $32,000 back when it was only seeing use in Syria, and now it's no longer offered for export, and that $20,000 number has never been updated as the weapon has grown in complexity. Hi, slightly more sober mid production laser pick here. A
Fucking
slight
A,
correction
pig.
on the cost. I'm going to keep referring to the Lancet as a $20,000 drone because to change that I'd have to re-record the entire video, and this is meant to be a short, quick video, and I'm not re-recording the whole fucking thing. But the reality is, we don't know how much it actually costs. The only source for the Lancet's cost...
The big question is, does Russia
Russia
have any money left?
What I think is the original export cost of about 3 million.
'Cause I think at this point,
which
Russia is broke.
$37,000 at the time of recording based on current exchange rates. The only claim for it ever being $20,000 is the Wikipedia article, and that information was added on an account which has now been banned from Wikipedia. As far as I'm aware, it's just never been noticed and corrected. Meaning it has more than likely now matched the Switchblade in terms of cost. You see this again with those cheap $400 drones. A year ago they cost $300 each, but every iteration they need to fly faster, carry bigger payloads, be more durable. So this is kind of my whole shtick against the whole cheap drone argument. Arrows will still kill you, and they are much cheaper than bullets, but their effectiveness on the battlefield might be limited by certain other factors. Rant over, video continue.
Please.
Now sure, even at the higher end of that, 100k is a far cry away from the millions it would cost to produce one tank. But the reality is we don't actually know how effective, or indeed ineffective, the Lancet has been against tanks. Statistics for the Lancet come primarily from the website lostarmor.info, a Russian website set up to discredit Oryx, which exclusively documents Ukrainian losses and has been accused of labeling Russian losses as Ukrainian ones. In fairness, this might not be the website owner's fault. They did start documenting Russian Russian losses, but were slapped down by the Russian courts for doing so. And they do try to provide sources for each claim, but if you check for sources on its claim numbers, it simply directs you to an endless unorganized page of comments where random users submit footage gathered on Telegram channels, including Russian propaganda ones. Unlike Oryx, there is no verification or way to independently verify each claim outside of wading through hundreds of hours of comments, allowing falsehoods to hide among the noise, made even harder by the sheer amount of decoys Ukraine has deployed and the impossibility to tell most of
It's nice to know that even in this modern day and age of satellites, thermal cameras, and goddamn night vision, a good old bunch of guys with some cardboard spray paint and enough time and effort can make a good looking dummy that will fool anybody. Yeah, I'm sorry. If I'm a drone operator, I see that. Yeah, $10 says I'd fall for it. Bro.
decoys from the real thing through the grainy images we are presented.
Wow.
This is problematic
Fucking
because,
paper
well,
mache
Russia has
tanks.
been
Gotta love
taking
it.
The premise of the Lancet to the extreme. In 2023, a Challenger 2 hit a mine and was abandoned and destroyed by its crew after persistent artillery fire forced them to abandon the recovery process. Russia insisted numerous times it was actually a Lancet that hit the tank, and according to the Ukrainians, the Russians fired numerous Lancets at the tank even after it was a burning hulk. Alright, I've just eaten a sandwich that had way too much.
What in the kobold bullshit is this? For context, oh my god, I'm living it. Look. Oh, fucking God. This is some shit a kobold would do. I know this isn't. This is why us furries are dangerous. I know plenty of fucking furries that would actually fucking do this. They are not afraid of death. They are. Here's the thing, bro. Furries are this. This is 100% furries. I know plenty of people who are not afraid to enter Valhalla. They are men and women. Who am I kidding? I've seen women that are this fucking insane. Yeah, I know plenty of girls and guys who would willingly strap RPGs to fucking axe handles and then do this shit. Witness me and blow and take. They will enter Valhalla willingly and with glory. I will drink to them. This poor fuck. What do you think that pistol's gonna do to save you, buddy? Oh, fucking A. God damn it, I love it. I love military furs. We need more of us.
Out of the way. Originally, they were claiming it was the Cornet missile that took it out, which is far more believable until, the Lancet starts to become the propaganda darling, and suddenly it's responsible for everything. There's actually a small rumor. I'm going to address it here. This is the second Challenger 2 that gets taken out, which was apparently blown up by a Lancet, and this is what happened to it. But in the same area, a Lancet hits a T-64 and does this. The actual capability of the Lancet is really widely varied, and it's kind of led to this rumor that because there isn't really different variants with different payloads like there is with the Switchblade, that the Russians are flying around regular drones disguised as Lancets to make it look like the weapon is far more numerous than it actually is. But that's just a rumor, But while there's a picture of the Challenger on the screen, because nothing upsets the Vatniks more than pictures of British tanks, I've got no idea why. Let me put a random one on the screen. Boom, there we go. At the time of recording, 2 Challenger 2s have been lost. But Wikipedia claims, according to the Tanks of Ukraine Army page, that 4 have been lost. Now, normally, I wouldn't bring this up, but a lot of people keep messaging me to say, aha! 4 Challengers have been lost! What do you think of that, pig? This is the voice that I use for all the haters that message me on Discord.
Yeah, I use that voice
That's
too.
what you sound like in my head, except more whiny.
Aaron.
I just can't be bothered doing the full voice right now. I'm full of cheese. Anyway, this is the only source that I could find for that number. So, could you all just go ahead and just check the sources for that?
Can I also just ask this? For those 4 Challengers, how many Russian tanks, armored vehicles, and other things did those 4 kill before they got taken down? We are not saying this is to anyone on in Russia or China or shit that's pirating me because Temlex says I'm being watched. The only way probably to watch me in Russia and China and a few other nations is through pirate websites or VPNs, in which case, good for you. Keep up the good fight. Do what you gotta do. Fight against the Putins and the tyrant regimes. Fuck them. We're not saying our tanks are invulnerable. Everything can be destroyed. But what we are saying is this: ours last a little longer. So, how many of Russian and we'll call them Eastern Bloc tanks. How many Eastern Bloc tanks did these things take out? Moving on.
That number, please. Just go ahead and look at them, because 2 of them are the same footage reported on different WebSlop websites, and the third isn't even a picture of a Challenger 2. You know, I actually check this shit, right? I don't just believe you when you say this shit. But hey ho, apparently I'm the one that doesn't check their sources. I could just edit this myself and correct it, but Wikipedia editors get really uppity.
You know what?
Whenever
Hey,
a
Marin,
YouTuber
that needs to
wanders
be a
in, so
VR
I
chat
find it's
asset
easier
right
just to
there.
whine
The
about
fucking
it in a video,
RPG on a
'cause they'll
stick.
fix it. They always do. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The footage of the supposed Lancet attack that took it out has never been publicly released. This makes judging the actual effectiveness of the Lancet quite difficult and prone to very dramatic arguments. The likelihood is the Lancet is probably a fairly effective weapon, but likely not for the reason you think. When it comes to precision munitions, Russian troops have very few options readily available, and as a result, the Lancet has been used in a variety of roles to fill the gaps, taking the place of artillery and counter-battery, as well as more traditional support elements, as combat losses sustained in Ukraine have severely diminished the Russian army's ability to rely on its support elements, in particular artillery and aircraft. In the later stages of 2022, in response to Ukraine's increased counter-battery effectiveness, the Russians began pulling hordes of towed artillery out of storage, some of which dated as far back as the Second World War.
Oh my
With the
god!
limited ability to retain these units in service due to excessive barrel wear, or move them around after they had been fired through the loss of transport vehicles, Russia's artillery dominance has finally began to wane, and as a result, systems like the Lancet have been forced
I'm sorry! Run that back.
began to wane, and as a
Bro, oh my god. Oh, I am dearly devoted to the dear leader. Oh my god. Oh, fuck me. Brother, you're not beating Putin is not beating the allegations at all that he's a dictator. When you have an actual patch with your face on it that your troops are wearing, I'm sorry. You ain't beating the tyrant allegations, brother. Also, here's the other important thing to know about these drones and why they're also becoming so widespread. Like, take this, and Pig already touched on it. Here's the biggest reason why Russia is also falling back and why Ukraine is relying more and more on smaller drones. Those small drones might not be taking out tanks, but they are taking out what supports those tanks. Artillery. Artillery batteries, even mortars, are so cumbersome and hard to set up and hard to take down and move. And you saw the result. So, yeah, the fact that Russia has always been reliant on that artillery advantage. That is the whole thing. And that's one of the things that, again, Zelensky is accounted for. Russia has more artillery. But yeah, it is like, so when Zelensky looked at this, it was like, okay, Russia has more artillery than me, and they have to set that shit up in big barrels. Okay, let's focus on taking all of that out with our small drones. So that's why all of the convoys, that's why they were saying, go past the tanks. A tank is only as good as the fuel, food, and ammo it has. When a tank runs out of fuel or ammo, it's just a big useless bunker. It's useless. So now Russia's trying to play catch up because they're like, oh shit, we can't use our artillery because the second we set it up, there's a swarm of drones heading for us and that thing is cooked. So that's where they have to now move to this mobile ship, but even then, they are not prepared for it because they weren't expecting to fight this way. That's why these things are fucking huge, and the Switchblade, like I said, with the right backpack, you could fit 8 of them in. And imagine this. You send a squad out with this kind of backpack. Let's say 4 men to a squad, 8 a backpack, and each of them have a backpack that carries 8 of these kills of the kill switch. Let's think of that. 4 times 8. That's a shit. I'm not going to think off the top of my head because I'm American and math hurts my head. I'm not even just saying that. Math actually does hurt. Math was my worst subject. But yeah, that's a fuckload of missiles.
Result, systems
little
like
kill
the
switches.
Lancet have been forced
But look
into
at this.
this role. The irony here being that a $20,000 drone system is now doing the work of an artillery shell, which the Russians once bragged they could make for under $1,500. At no point has the author questioned that the reason drones are so numerous in Ukraine is that both sides are potentially lacking the equipment that would have traditionally performed that job and are falling back onto cheaply made drones to fill the gap, or that perhaps it's other things that are being outdated. This, of course, all bleeds into HDDS's third part. The third part of HDDS is, of course, quite simply forgetting all the work done into anti-drone technology over the past few years. For any argument about how drones have suddenly made everything obsolete, you have to firstly just ignore any developments into anti-drone warfare that have also taken place. You have to ignore that in spite of the existence of heavy drone-based munition.
I mean,
that
look
can
at the
take
size
out
of that
tanks,
thing.
Ukraine still uses tanks. Quite a lot. And there are reasons for this, and I mentioned one of those reasons earlier. Lancets, regardless of how effective they actually are, can be countered quite easily. At their heart, they are basically just self-propelled TV missiles, and they are susceptible to the same jamming techniques used against drones. They can be intercepted by FPV drones quite easily, and Ukraine has developed a cottage industry of FPV drones specifically designed to take down Lancets. Where these drones are not available, Ukraine has found the best solution to fight against Lancets and Shaheeds from bombing cities is an old World War II propeller plane with a machine gun on the back. Okay, so it's not actually a World War II plane, it's a Yak-52. It's an old Soviet acrobatic plane.
But the
built in
bat,
Germany
yeah,
in
fair
1970.
enough, Big, but
I mean,
still.
just look at the damn thing.
Look,
But they have found that the
bro, that's World War I style bullshit. I love it. I fucking love it. Oh.
of defense is to simply put a big cage around the target. The so-called Culp cages, which Russia threw up in a desperate defense against the first wave of Ukrainian drone attacks, for all the hilarity they have caused, have proven to be quite effective. Russia was forced to introduce a newer, more updated version of the Lancet, which contained additional sensors and tandem warheads, but the cost of this new unit has never been publicly revealed, and its effectiveness remains mired in the question
look, the average
logic
Russian
of
supporters.
propaganda. However, what has been revealed is Ukraine has the ability to track these new units of Lancets quite easily. Because jamming equipment is now so prevalent, it requires forces on both sides operating drones to cycle through frequencies trying to find one that isn't jammed. I'll get onto that in a bit since it is quite important, and another thing sufferers of HDDS are ignoring. In the first days Lancets were being used en masse, the Russians would be forced to stop jamming the frequency that the Lancet was being used in. The Ukrainians would simply cycle through frequencies, find the one that wasn't being jammed, and then jam it themselves, causing the Lancets to just fall out of the sky. In a response, the Russians are now forced to turn off their jamming systems when firing a Lancet to prevent the Ukrainians from figuring out the frequency. This not only makes them exceedingly vulnerable to Ukrainian return fire, it also pre-warns the Ukrainians that Lancets are on the way when all Russian jamming equipment suddenly turns off. Equipment which does exist to prevent things like this, which every tech bro knows about and is probably screaming at the screen in defiance over, is expensive, and therefore not something you find on a $400 drone, or a weapon that's designed to be cheap like the Lancet or the Shaheed. Jammers are, of course, not as sophisticated as you might think. At the end of the day, they are just things that scream very loudly in a certain frequency, blocking that frequency from being used by anything else nearby.
Yeah.
They require a lot of power and can typically only scream in one frequency, or at best a narrow band of similar frequencies, hence why so many of them have multiple aerials. Russia's cope sheds, for again all the hilarity their appearance made, are covered in these jamming stations, allowing these mobile bunker things that Russia proudly calls the Beast to block drones in a wide radius over a long
Bro, no. The Beast. The Beast. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh my god, Russia, you're trying so hard. This is the edgy kid at school who's trying to prove he's a man, but everyone knows he's a fucking idiot. Oh my god.
frequencies. The idea behind them that these so-called beasts move ahead of the assault, blocking drones for the advancing units behind. The effectiveness of this has been questionable. Now, you might think the best defense against this is to simply have the drone change frequencies, and you'd be right. But changing frequencies isn't as easy as pressing a button or changing a dial. In fact, in many cases, the aerial assembly has to be completely ripped off and replaced with one with a newer frequency, hence why a lot of drones, such as the ones I helped build with Richard, are shipped with an aerial, allowing the receiving unit to add their own as needed. This is another drawback of the cheap drone assembly, as modular frequency modules, or even the ability to change frequency on the fly as needed, sometimes the drone automatically picking one that is not actively being jammed, is quite expensive, and another reason why things like the Switchblade are more expensive than the Lancet. But that's the old idiom. You get what you pay for. Putting soldiers' lives at risk with cheaper equipment that might not always work is the lesson the US military has learned the hard way. Ask any US veteran and they will happily bitch to you about any number of equipment problems based entirely on that topic, often for several hours, without ever stopping for breath. It's quite impressive. The real counter to the jamming problem for both sides has been to simply not use frequencies at all. Large spools of fiber optic cabling is now attached to drones, which makes them immune to jamming systems, or the operator being so easily triangulated, with the added benefit that the latency is always perfect, allowing the operator to see in high definition without having to risk a higher latency connection. These drones have caused all kinds of hell for both sides, to the point where parts of the front lines are littered in webs of fiber optic. So far, Ukraine's best defense against them has been barbed wire, sometimes attached to a motor, which causes it to spin, entangling the fiber optic cabling of those drones passing overhead and causing it to snap. However, the best defense against those drones simply remains a big cage. On the front lines of both sides, supply routes are now covered in large arc structures, a Cope Cage Supreme, if you will, that prevent drones attacking convoys and supply trucks, and both sides will typically spend days or often weeks trying to find
Think
holes
of how much
or
time that takes
make
up.
holes in these nets, and then have several drones.
Here's the biggest thing, that it's also, again, delaying tactics. Think of all the time and effort needed to set that stuff up. Think of the manpower, all the men that could have been used for an assault like on Kyiv or some other place, or a push through a region, has to be postponed because they have to pull men off of that to set up these Cope Cage Supremes against fuck all this. And plus, here's another thing that's also fucking like useful. When those beasts come out, or even this, you could take this shit out with a recoilless rifle, which can also be man portable. Like I said, there's a difference between fighting to win and fighting to stalemate. Ukraine is fighting until Russia just gives the fuck up and goes home. Like, literally, all they're waiting for are Russian soldiers to say, you know what? This is bullshit. Let's just get rid of Putin. And by the way things are going, and that's why Putin and all the big tyrants, I won't name a few because there's a few that I have to worry about over here in the US of A. But slowly but surely, here's what they're all worried about. If the Russian troops, the Russian army, turns around and starts staring at Putin, they're in trouble. All those tyrants, because all they need is one incident where an army turns around and turns on their great leader. Then that means, oh shit, these men aren't invincible. They aren't divine. They bleed. And when the peasants are like sharks, and when they smell blood in the water, whoo-hoo-hoo! Well, let's ask the French. Chop, 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 chop.
lie in wait across the road, ambushing any vehicles they find. This has led to Ukraine up-armoring everything from medevac to supply trucks in order to minimize the damage caused by these ambush drones. In much the same way, US and British forces in Iraq were forced to up-armor their patrol vehicles owing to the threat of IEDs. Of course, Ukraine constantly stating that you need to up-armor everything to make it harder for drones to take you out is of course ignored by sufferers of HDDS, because if they acknowledge that, then how does making tanks lighter, faster, and less armored make any sense? But if you're trying to push the Russian propaganda narrative that Western tanks are too big and too heavy, then this is a part of reality that you have to ignore. Of course, Ukraine's best counter to drones remains, and surprisingly remained, old radar-guided anti-air systems from the Cold War. Because of the way they are designed, drones have a relatively high radar cross-section for their size. Modern-day stealth fighters, despite being hundreds of times bigger, actually have smaller radar cross-sections than modern-day drones, meaning they can be easily picked up by radar systems. Mobile anti-air systems like the Gepard have proven exceedingly
that thing's a
effective
bitch
at
to fight
taking
in
them
War
down,
Thunder.
meaning to avoid systems like this, drones have to fly low to the ground, which makes finding targets considerably harder. And when you're operating wild weasel attacks with drones, you have limited battery life to play with, and by the time you've gotten to a target area, you're more than likely to just take the first target of opportunity you see, as opposed to try and hunt for the bigger fish and risk your battery going flat, which means the guy standing out in the open gets the $400 drone to the face, but the tank camouflaged in the forest next to him gets a free pass. This is of course just on the Ukrainian front, where funds are limited and results are needed immediately. In countries not affected by this war, which includes every country in the world outside of Russia and Ukraine, funding and time for testing is in ample supply. Electronic warfare systems have proven quite effective against things like drone swarms, but EW systems are expensive and hard to explain, so let's skip all that and talk about lasers.
There are people who propose shooting drones out of the sky with a laser or with a missile. That's not really a good way to take out, let's say, 100 drones that are attacking you from all different directions.
Every country in the world now seems to be building lasers, and it's easy to see why. Lasers have been a thing for generations, but up until now, we've just never really had a use for them that wasn't more practical than the thing we were already doing. Now we do. For mere pennies a shot, a laser can hit a drone with, well, laser accuracy and take it down. These systems are not as expensive to build as you might think and cost pennies per shot. Rumors are that some of these systems have seen testing in Ukraine. Where these systems fit into our current doctrine is still being written, and where these things are now technologically will be considerably different in a few years' time. Ultimately, these weapons will need mounting onto something, and why can't that something be a tank? Laser tanks are finally here. The ultimate irony here is that a 2-penny laser
The storm
is shooting down a
shadows will
$20,000
rise.
drone, which is doing the job of a $1,500 artillery shell. And this is being described by people who write for prestigious military news blogs as a cost-saving initiative because herder drone. This gets picked up by WebSlop and then posted to the website, subreddit, or Discord that you get your news from as a gotcha moment by people who have only read the title. But the nuance behind the emerging front of drone warfare might be a little bit more complicated than these idiots like to proclaim. But as history has shown, every technological advancement ever made, from handheld launchers to aircraft to missiles to smart bombs, has all been heralded by these same idiots as the death of the tank. Tanks, of course, are still here and have simply adapted to change as needed.
Yep.
And as has become my catchphrase, it is not the biggest army that wins, it is the one that is the most adaptable to change. My name's Laserpig. Get the fuck out of my house.
Well, I like it here. It's cozy. Buddy, okay, so yeah. Drones. They are useful in war. Tanks will not be obsolete. Not for a long damn time, if ever. But let's be honest about one thing. Here's the one thing, again, that I think everyone, and I do mean everyone, is still trying. Here's the biggest thing about all of this. All of these planners, all of these article writers are still hoping and praying for the great tank battles. They're basically fighting, the best way I can describe that, they're fighting with battleship doctrine. Let me explain. And I will bring Google up for this. Ladies and gentlemen, you know her, you love her, the battleship Yamato. The reason this ship was built was because the Japanese and the Americans at the time were still believing in the great battle doctrine, the decisive battle doctrine. And what that basically is big battleship, big gun, big other big battleship, big gun, biggest battleship, biggest gun win. That is literally it. It's simple, it's easy. These ships, the Yamato and Musashi, were built to basically take on the U.S. battleship fleet in a great decisive battle that would decide the fate of the war. And what happened to the battleship Yamato? I can't remember. Oh, yeah! She got blown to smithereens. And what did she get blown to smithereens by? Oh, yeah! Aircraft! Here is the big thing. The Japanese, and a lot of these people want these big-ass battleship, these huge battles where strength and power equal victory. And this is the thing, and it has been the thing for all battleships, not just Yamato. Her sister ship, Musashi, also sunk by aircraft. Let me see if there's a picture. Oh yeah, American aircraft blew her out of the water. Small planes piloted by madmen. Madmen, crazy boys, average Joe Schmoes, not crewed by gentlemen officers or men of talent. These were guys who were just fighting. And not just that, there's also another story that no one likes to talk about, because it goes against the story. Bismarck! Everyone's like, well, I know a lot of you right now. I know a lot of you. Right now we're going, wait a minute, it was King George V and Rodney that sunk the Bismarck. Nah. Silence. Because they were about to lose her. They almost lost the Bismarck. What happened? Oh yeah, a bunch of crazy mad lads in fucking biplanes jammed one torpedo right up the ass, right in the rudder, and slowed her down enough for the British to catch up. And later evidence, when other researchers went down to examine the wreck of the Bismarck, and the pre-run. Yes, we can only... Yes, in our headcanon, and no one can beat our headcanon. It was the P-run. It was the P-run. God, I am a Pole. Yes, forever in my heart. The P-run was the one. The fucking Poles, baby. But anyway, back on topic. Yes, it was... But later expeditions down to the Bismarck found that the damage done to Bismarck from all the torpedo strikes and all the shells didn't really do much damage to her inner hull. Her outer hull was a mess, but her major systems were still pretty much intact. The Bismarck's crew sank her themselves. They are the ones that flooded her hull and flooded her magazines. They were the main cause of her sinking, not the battleship. And not only that, there are more instances in this day and age, in World War II, let me see, let me make sure I can actually spell this right. Let me see here, because, let's see here. Let's see, I'm Italian! I should know this fucking, I should know how to pronounce this. I know a few battleships right there. Let's see, I cannot spell worth a damn. Son of a bitch. Let's see, the Regia Marina. Let's see, World War II. Let's see, where is the... Let's see here. Ah, here it is. And if I scroll down to the modern age, where is it? Battle of Toronto. Yes, here it is. 1 aircraft carrier and 1 raid, also flying swordfish, completely ambushed and sank several major battleships in the harbor. Look at what they fucking did to the Littorio. Her fucking nose is in the dirt. This is the big issue with these people who write the forums. They don't like hearing this because they can't understand how a fucking nobody, yes, a nobody, a fucking peasant, a fucking loser, some weak little bitch in a weak, just destructible aircraft with 1 single torpedo could destroy something so big and so mighty. This is the big issue with a lot of these people writing these articles. They are men who desire that might makes right. They are men who believe that you gotta be bigger and stronger and tougher, and anyone who's weaker than you automatically loses. That is the mindset behind these articles. These are guys who say, fuck your rules and fuck your beliefs. We're gonna pepper you with torpedoes or drones, or we're gonna find your weak spot and hit you in just the right place. I'll take this for an instance. Say I get into a fight with, let's pull a name out of my head. Let's pull a name out my ass. Andrew Tate. Shut up, I pulled that name out of my ass off the top of my head. It's not just because I fantasize about beating his ass. Shut up. If I'm in a fight with him, now I'm a decently big guy, but he definitely has me beat in the muscle department. The guy definitely has me beat in the muscle department. He also is a mixed martial artist fighter, so he's got a little bit of a skill advantage on me. Okay. So, if I meet him out in the streets, let me think here. How am I going to beat a guy who's got me on a weight advantage, a skill advantage, and a muscle advantage? Let's think here. How am I going to beat him? Oh, well, wait a minute. All men have one major weak spot. I'm going to aim specifically for that one area. And you all know the area I'm talking about. Oh, hi, Kronos. Yeah, Twitch is being a bitch, just letting you know. You have better luck messaging me on YouTube, being in my YouTube chat, just letting you know. But yeah, so if I'm in a fight with Andrew, I'm going to punch him square in his reset button. And that's if I forget to bring like a steel baseball bat or some shit. Yeah, I don't give a shit about rules. I'm gonna fight to survive and get the fuck out of there. If I get in a fight with someone who's bigger than me, tougher than me, stronger than me, or more well armed than me, I'm not gonna fight him head on where he has the advantage. Fuck that shit. I'm gonna fight where I have the advantage. I'm gonna fall back and find a place where I can actually control the fight. What the whole process of a fight is finding the place where you have control. If you fight basically where it's... This is why I have a problem with chess. Like, let me explain to you my issue with chess. And this is also going to piss Andrew off because he's a chessboard freak. Chess is a game that is literally, I have always said is the beginner level strategy, because how do you do it? It's a flat field. You have the same amount of troops. You have the same amount of everything. Oh, I did fight. I was fighting one-on-one, and his bodyguards are involved. Oh, I'm fighting a height advantage, and again, I'm getting a steel baseball bat. I am bad luck, but damn right, I'll be using a war flail. Here's the thing, again, Delphix. I am looking at the situation. I'm like, let's see. I am outmanned. I'm out-muscled, and I definitely don't have the advantage. I'm gonna go somewhere else where I can get the advantage. Come get me, assholes! The whole point of it is fighting, is you need to fight where you have the advantage. And like I said, chess is the worst place. Like I said, chess is the worst game because what it encourages is this idea of a superior intellect. The smartest person wins. And that doesn't always factor into combat. Yes, intelligence and knowing strategy is important. I'm not saying it isn't. But this idea that your superior just being smarter or a better mind of strategy than the other guy, that immediately fails. And I know that because I've done it. When I was going to be a Marine, when I was going through Marine Corps pre-boot camp training, that was basically yes, there's a program when you're just going through the recruiting phase, when you haven't gone to boot camp yet, you go through basically this pre-boot camp training with other recruits like you. And when I was doing that, one day we had a visiting Marine Corps colonel with us. Now, this guy had been in battle a long time. He was, thank you, yes. I'm the modern Sun Tzu. And believe it or not, Sun Tzu actually was speaking a lot of my language. Go read up Sun Tzu. He's a brilliant tactician. Anyway, we're all just chilling out after training. We're all kind of relaxing. There's a little restaurant, and the colonel decides to stick with us. Just hang out with us, talk to us, discuss some stuff, answer questions. And he sees me and a few guys are playing a game of chess. Now, we were just playing casually, and he comes over and he challenges us. And, of course, he goes in, he kicks a lot of our butts, mainly because a lot of us were new, and he was kind of just playing, well, to his level of casual, which was still pretty fucking aggressive. Now, I saw that, and I decided not to take the game. I decided to take the game seriously. And he didn't take me seriously. And I beat him. Yeah. I beat a Marine Corps colonel at chess. And it was because he didn't take me seriously. I was playing seriously. He wasn't. He rematched me, and then he played seriously, and he kicked my ass. But it's the same manner. If you underestimate your opponent, no matter how skilled you are, you lose. And at chess, that's the clearest definition. And it's such a bad game because it doesn't factor in anything. It's a flat field. You've got equal amounts of armor, of troops and equipment. You've got everything. Everything's built to be the perfect battlefield. You want the true strategy game? It's 40K tabletop. You are not a strategist until you play 40K tabletop. Because this shit is insane! Like, first and foremost, take a look at some of this shit. Number one, you get more pieces with different abilities, with different everything. And not only that, before the game even begins, you bring out shitloads of dice. And you're doing roll after roll, determining, like, their fucking strengths, how far they can be spread out, how much equipment they have, what their resources are like, what their logistics are like, how sick are people. And this it goes hard for the guard. This shit, it gets really, really difficult. And here is even Craven. No, I haven't. I've never even heard of that. What the fuck even is that? Anyway, but this shit is so immersive. And here's the thing. And it also factors in fucking terrain, weather conditions, ruins, everything, cover. And here's even the biggest thing. When it's your turn to attack and you pick a target, you gotta roll for that too. Damn. Asymmetric warfare chest. Damn. Sounds like something I'd probably see in Star Trek. Anyway. But yeah, here's the thing. When you take your shot, when you order a Space Marine, a Guardsman, whatever, to fire on a target, you gotta roll. You gotta roll for how many shots hit and how many miss. And then, after that, you roll for the ones that did hit, how much damage they do, or none at all. Yeah. And it's not over. You've got to factor in cover. You've got to factor in, again, weather conditions, terrain, everything. 40K is such a nail-biting game. It is so nail-biting. It's not just who has the biggest army wins. It is not just, oh, I show up with my huge-ass tanks and you just have a bunch of guardsmen, you're going to lose. Oh, no. I have seen superior foes fall in Warhammer. I kid you not. I saw a game once. I was witness to a game where a dude brought in 3 knights. 3 full-size knights. For context, these aren't titans. These are knights. Let me show you knights. These are knights. They are still big and powerful. And a dude brought 3 of them in. And he went up against an army that only had APCs and a few dozen troops. And the troops and the APCs took down all 3 knights. Through clever and proper placement and actual sacrifices, they took down 3 knights. And it's also like, there's also, hell, you read in the books, it's the same story. There's a story about a guardsman, a singular guardsman, who took down 3 Astartes in a simulated battle. They went through a simulated battle, and 3 Astartes were killed by a guardsman because he sacrificed himself. That's the one basic thing about it. When a pawn is sacrificed, the pawn dies, and just the pawn, and the winning one wins and stays alive. You strap a bomb to a sacrificial piece, and then you take out those other pieces of your enemy. You get yourself an opening. Yes, chess is a jousting match. It's a tournament. It's a fake fight. It is not good for strategy. Strategy is, again, as Pig said, it's whoever can adapt to the best. And here's the thing. Intelligence and strategy is one thing. But again, you've got to... But I want guys who are clever. I want guys who are thinkers and ingenieurs. I want guys who look at a situation and either think about, like, either the easiest way to win the battle, or maybe even the simplest. And most importantly, I want guys who are lucky. Sometimes, again, as Napoleon said, yes, I know he's brilliant, but is he lucky? Luck is a factor in a lot of things. Sometimes it's just, it's the right place at the right time. It is just, sometimes it's just the right place, right time, the one bullet that changes history, the one little fact, a loose bolt. It could be whatever. There are many factors to a fight. It's not just strength or intelligence over idiot and weak. The idea that might makes right, that strength beats all, is immediately a death sentence on the battlefield. All wars were lost because one person overestimated themselves and underestimated their opponents. Look, biggest example, America and Vietnam. We went in to expect fighting a bunch of illiterate peasants in pajamas. And they knew that they couldn't beat us head on. They could not beat us head on, one-on-one. So they fought smarter. They dug tunnels. They pulled ambush tactics. They went around us. They broke borders. They literally fought defensively. They grinded us down for over 10 years. And then we left. They did the same thing. It was the same thing that was done to us in the Middle East. Iraq, Afghanistan, they grinded us down. That's how they beat us. We've been relying on our strength to win. We need to start thinking intelligently. That's how we need to start fighting. And not only that, we also need to learn to, we once again need to learn to start fighting against the rules. We need to take a page out of the Canadians book and start looking at the Geneva Convention as the Geneva Suggestion. The Geneva Checklist. Yes, I'm slightly demented. Do I care? Well, no, I don't. I don't care. But yeah, so that is battle. That is strategy. So when you see a form that says, oh, this technology is so expensive and it doesn't even work. Why are we still even using this? It's probably because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And something changed. Like, take the F-35. Let's talk every fucking reformer's most hated and loved subject to bitch and moan about, the good old F-35. It can't dogfight. It can't. Ugh. Paramedics and the world's policemen. It's true. Everyone goes off on how this thing can't dogfight. Again, these are men who dream of the days of World War I style ace combat. They want aces that they can pin medals on and bring up like folk heroes. They want more Red Barons, Eddie Rickenbackers, fucking Hawkers. They want aces. Eric Hartmans. They want aces. They want aces that they can prop up as propaganda and shake hands and blah, blah, blah. The F-35 was not built to be a dogfighter aircraft. It's a fighter bomber. The best thing I could compare this to, honestly, is this. The F-35 is our modern day equivalent of the P-47. It's a jug, it's a pig, it's slow, it's cumbersome. But good God Almighty, can it carry a load of bombs and rockets and shit. This thing was close air support. It was a strike aircraft. Could it dogfight? Yeah, kinda. It did a pretty decent job dogfighting. There were a few aces made out of it. But its primary duty was close air support. It's a fucking support aircraft. That's what the F-35 is. And most specifically, it's a strike aircraft. It's designed to sneak in undetected, drop a very big laser-guided bomb, and then fly away very, very fast. That's what this plane is designed to do. You want a dogfighter? You want the dogfighter? You want our P-51? You want our modern day equivalent to the P-51? I got you. Here it is. The fucking kid! Would you intercept me? I'd intercept me. Yes, I've seen that guy. I love his videos. But yes, this is our dogfighter. This is our quintessential, I'm going to fuck you up. Thank you, Delphix. Oh, yeah. This is the plane that's gonna fuck you up. But you're like, well, doesn't Russia have stuff like that? No, not really. All their aircraft from, let's pick up the new one. Let's pick up the MiG-35. This is Russia's newest MiG, the MiG-35. It's, again, the jack of all trades. I carry missiles, I carry bombs, I carry laser-guided bombs and stuff, and blah, blah, blah. Yes, exactly. Yes! D&D, F-35 is the rogue. 100%. Correct, Mead. Yes, this plane is a jack of all trade. Let's take a look at another one. Let's start with the basic, the Su-27. Primarily their fighter, but yes, they have been using it as again the jack of all trade. Su-30, same thing, same design. Yes, he's fighter, he's dog fighter, but also can do job of ground support. No. And then you've got the dedicated. Here's the big one. Let's take a look at some of the others. No, not this 27. The SU, I believe it's the 35. Oh yeah, here's the other one again. Brother. I'm trying to think of their ground support aircraft. What? No, it wasn't the 30. Wasn't the 33? Was it the 33? No, that's the Navy version. Jesus, they're all the same. Jesus. They literally just all they do is just up the number. That's literally all they do is they just up the number every time. It does this. It's the same model, but it has new TV screen in it. Good. It is SU-31. And then we have this. Where the fuck do I start? Number one, ain't stealthy. We've detected this thing on our radar before. Fucking awful. And again, here's the big thing. They're planning to use this. They have been using it as both a fighter and a strike aircraft. The jack of all trade, it sometimes works, but other times not. It depends on the use of it. Best thing, actually, yeah. We'll talk about the femboy later. So the F-35 and the F-22, they're meant for two different jobs, and they do those two jobs very well. F-22, keep the skies clear. F-35, make sure something on the ground goes away. I do better with pictures, so it helps me keep track of things. The A-10, there's something in the way, blow it out of the way. Yes, I know we've done the laser pig thing that sucks. Oh yeah, that's the let's see, Russia new jet. New jet. Where is it? Oh, here it is. The Checkmate. They're calling it the Checkmate. We're calling it the Femboy. That's its new NATO designation, the Femboy. And which, by the way, can I just say this? Can I just say this right now? Can I just say this right now? What's the problem with femboys? I have many friends who are femboys. This is not bad. Femboys are nice. Femboys are nice. You hang out with. Let's think of a new name for this. Since why are we calling? So yeah, instead of femboy, because that's insulting to femboys. Let's think here. What should we call this plane? What should we call this plane? What should the new NATO designate? Let's think of it. What's a good? That's true. Yes, because they let. You make a point there, Coob. You make a point. You got a point. You've got a solid point. Okay, we'll put a pin in that. Anyway, back on top. No, hey, me. Just so you know, I can't say that word on Twitch. I know not a lot of people are watching me on Twitch, but no, I can't legally say. I cannot say that because that is considered a slur. Yeah, welcome to the world of nonsense. Anyway, moving on. Moving on back to the subject. So yeah, A-10, blow the shit away. I know Laserpig is already, and I agree that yeah, this thing's a piece of shit. And the true great air support thing is of course the F-111 Aardvark. Anyway, so we have planes meant for specific roles, but Russia wants one easy airframe that you can still say shit. You can still say shit, Mead. Don't worry. It's weird. I know TikTok has they need to give us a list. They need to give us a list, but they're probably not going to do that because then they'd have to pay somebody to make a list. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. Moving on to the subject. We're not here to discuss Twitch policy on words and shit. Anyway, so here's the thing about Russia. Again, Russia is broke. Here is the big reason behind all of, I'm just going to bring it up, MiG. Russia, the reason Russia builds planes like the MiG series, the fucking T-72 series, the fucking AK system, all this shit, they're broke. Yes, they build a lot of them, but they're broke. They're all broke. China's broke. I mean, yeah, I know. Everyone, oh, China has this big economy and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, what are they using that economy for? Sure, their tanks look all new and fancy, but underneath, they're all still Russian pieces of crap. They're copies. All these nations, all these tyrannical nations are flat broke. And why is that? Because they're spending all of their money. Mainly it's getting dragged away by oligarchs. All of Russia's economy is in the hands of a select few individuals that stole all the money from the people, and that's why their people live in literal squalor, where they're lucky to have a working toilet at the bottom of the fucking 5-story building that everyone has to share. This is why you've got these huge mega cities in China, which are supposed to hold millions of people, and they're empty and falling apart. They're using, all of these nations are using their economies, all of the money that they're making, to build propaganda cities, appease the select few ultra rich, and build re-education camps. And prisons and all that shit. Tyrants want one thing: to get as much money as possible, and then when the peasants start getting angry and start dusting off the guillotine, they can run. Most likely to a little city hiding in the Middle East, where basically it was built as an ultra-rich hidey hole, where they can be the same shitholes that they've always been. I won't say any names. Excuse me, what was that? Continuing on. All these tanks, all of this shit is very, very just utter shit. Oh my god, someone left a message, I can barely see it. Oh well, whatever. It's weird how it isn't showing up on my YouTube. Anyway, it might pop up on my feed in a little bit. All of this shit is cheap and inexpensive because it's all getting funneled away. Russia's broke. All the money it's getting from all of its exports is going to their oligarchs. And this is not a new situation. This has been going on for years. In fact, most things that Russia has cheaped out on has had international consequences. Because now we're about to switch from military and we're going to talk about, I'm going to rant about something else I like. Because it's something that I need to fucking talk about because I'm tired of paying for my electric bill and all this fucking gas. Let's talk about nuclear power. Russia has ruined nuclear power because of one stupid fucking thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're finally talking about Chernobyl. That's right, I'm not just a military nerd, I'm a nuclear power fanboy. And I'm about to defend nuclear power and absolutely bury Chernobyl where it needs to be buried, because that sarcophagus is starting to fail. I know immediately so many people right now are going, but Schlug, nuclear power is dangerous. It's absolutely, look at Chernobyl, an entire city. Chernobyl, I'm calling it because, well, technically it's still a Soviet city. I mean, it was a Soviet city when it was abandoned. I don't see any Ukrainians moving into it, so, yeah. I'm just gonna call it Chernobyl because that's also how it was pronounced when I was playing it back in Modern Warfare in the old days when I was with Price and Captain McMillan, so I'm gonna call it that way. All respect to Ukraine, but I'm sorry, I was there with Captain McMillan when we blew up Zakhaev Tsar. So, yeah. Nuclear power. No! Chernobyl! 3 Mile Island! Radiation fallout! Oh, shut up and cry me a river. Chernobyl was a poorly, horribly managed, dangerous reactor that failed because it was a poorly designed and dangerously designed thing. And why was it designed so poorly and built so poorly? To quote the head nuclear manager of the Soviet Union when he was asked why the reactor was built so poorly, it's cheaper. That's right. Chernobyl was built on the cheap. The fucking RBK. Let's see. RBKM, RBMK reactor. This reactor system is by far one of the most dangerous reactor systems ever designed by man. Yeah, exactly. This is what you do not do with a reactor, because literally this thing is designed to be hyper reactive at the cost of safety. Actually, better yet, I think I'll just let the man himself explain it for all those who have not seen the series Chernobyl. Let's see here. Watch and listen. And I will explain through parts of it too.
Dyatlov broke every rule we have. He pushed a reactor to the brink of destruction.
Oh, just so you know, so this all started because they were trying to test reactor number 4 because it had failed many other tests before that because it was improperly made. Yeah, this happened because a test went wrong.
He did these things believing there was a failsafe. AZ-5, a simple button to shut it all down. But in the circumstances he created, there wasn't. The shutdown system had a fatal flaw. At 1:23:40, Akimov engages AZ-5. The fully withdrawn control rods begin moving back into the reactor. These rods are made of boron, which reduces reactivity, but not the tips. The tips are made of graphite, which accelerates reactivity.
Why?
Why? For the same reason our reactors do not have containment buildings around them, like those in the West. For the same reason we don't use properly enriched fuel in our cores. For the same reason we are the only nation that builds water-cooled, graphite-moderated reactors with a positive void coefficient. It's cheaper.
That one sentence doomed hundreds to radiation sickness, poison, and danger. It's cheaper. I'm just going to let that sink in. Chernobyl was built cheap. It was using improper fuel rods, which accelerated radiation instead of killing it. It used improper, unenriched fuel. It did not house containment buildings to protect from radiation. Chernobyl was a bomb. That's what the Soviets built. They didn't build a power reactor. They built a bomb. Now I'm going to show you a reactor that did go critical over here in the West. And not a lot of people talk about it, but they do try to bring it up every once in a while when somebody does mention it. This is 3 Mile Island. It's here in the US, and it had a failure. It had a reactor go critical in 1979, less than a decade before Chernobyl. But there's no evacuations. This place isn't well known. And look where this is. This is where 3 Mile Island is. You've got New York up here and Washington right here. And yet this whole area is still habited by people. And people still work at 3 Mile Island. One of the reactors did in fact fail. This is how this is how a Western reactor is usually built. It's water cooled, it's got proper control rods, proper fuel, and it's got this huge giant containment building around it that is purpose built to prevent radiation from leaking out. I'll get to more, Coob. Believe me, I'll get to more. I'm not done with my argument yet. Believe me, I've got a lot to argue on this one. And the 3 Mile Island reactor failed. Big time. But since the control rods were built properly and proper safeguards and training was done to the nuclear engineers working at the plant, they were successfully able to scram the reactor. Scram is the term used to completely shut down a reactor. Just kill it. Kill it entirely. And they stopped it. They killed the reactor. That reactor is still there. It's dormant. Basically, so I believe there's actually also a picture of what it currently looks like. There was a cleanup section because some radiation did in fact leak out because you can't stop everything. But to the level of Chernobyl, it was not. It was minor. There might have been some health effects. We're not certain. It's inconclusive, but we're still looking into it. But that reactor is still there. Let me see here. This is the reactor. There were 2 reactors here. This is the one that's still in use. Same reactor as the one built here. But this one's still in use. It's still producing nuclear energy. This is the reactor that went critical. It's no longer active. They're leaving it there because it would be more dangerous to basically they're leaving it there so that way the shelf life of the uranium and all the shit inside of it just goes dormant. It's the safest thing to do just to leave it there. Just to leave it there and let the radioactivity inside the control building die off naturally, which will take a long time, but none of it's leaking out. None of it's leaking out. It's already well and contained. But look at this. You're standing right here. You still can drive down this highway. You can. People are still working here. People are still living in the towns nearby. It's safe. They had the proper safeguards. They had all... Oh. Wait, they're going to bring it back? Oh. Huh. Yeah, that's the other thing that can happen. So the way it was shut down, they can bring it back online if they do things correctly, and they're doing it correctly. But again, nobody cares because, again, nuclear radiation, Chernobyl, it went active. Yeah, but look what happened because we built it right and we trained our people right. Little happened. And then let's talk about the biggest one that... Fukushima! Have I heard this one? Yes. It was a Western properly built reactor that was heavily damaged and a lot of radioactive fallout happened. But in our defense, we did not expect it to get hit by a huge fucking earthquake and a tsunami at the same time. No one saw that coming. It was not built to handle it. No one expected it to happen to that fucking... I mean, look, no one expected this. Look at this. Japan has planned for earthquakes and tsunamis, but they've never planned for 2 happening almost simultaneously and at the level that they did happen. This took us completely by surprise. But here's the beautiful thing about this. Yes, everything happened wrong and a lot of stuff failed. But here is the beautiful thing. We were able to we have now properly begun ideas, thanks to Chernobyl, we have learned what not to do in terms of the cleanup. Where is it? Come on, give me the cleanup. Accidents, consequences. You're not telling me the cleanup. Come on, people. Jesus. You gotta love it when people, let's see, reaction, international reaction. Come on, give me the cleanup. Where's the cleanup? Come on, people. Don't do this. Don't you do Oh my god. Yeah, of course they don't like talking about the cleanup because the cleanup was successful. Here's the big thing that I'm definitely seeing here. No one's talking about how we cleaned up all of the radioactive water, all of the fallout that did happen. We cleaned it up properly. And let's take a look at this. Deaths. 1 suspected from radiation. Lung cancer. 4 years later. And it's suspected because who knows? The person could have had lung cancer already before. There were people that were injured. Look at this. Yes, non-fatal injuries. 6 people with cancer or leukemia. Definitely dangerous and tragic. Absolutely. I am not by any means saying that these aren't dangerous. And accidents do happen. And things happen with that. But saying no to the power simply because, yeah, this happened? No. That's improper. Because by that logic, then, okay, by that logic, by saying we shouldn't use nuclear power because people can get sick with cancer and radioactive burns. Okay, fine. Okay, take it easy, Dr. Mead. Thanks for sticking around. Here's the big thing I gotta say about this, and this is an argument that I know a lot of people are probably gonna jump on me for. By this logic, because people can do all this shit, we should ban all cars. Because there are people that can get killed by hit and runs, by drunk drivers. By all that account, we should ban all vehicles. All motor vehicles. We need to go back to horses and buggies. Oh, wait, no. People can get trampled and run over by horses. In that case, we'll ban horses. We should ban all fuels. All diesel and petroleum because they can have a fuel explosion. Fuel catches on fire. People can get fuel burns or carbon monoxide poisoning. Nuclear power is dangerous. Yes. Is it more dangerous than other fuel types? In the right conditions? Yes. But there are just so many other conditions, especially here in the West, in the Western world, where we don't decide to just steal all of our money, or at least try not to. Where we hold ourselves to higher safety standards, where stuff like this can happen, and we can still minimize the effect. You cannot bubble wrap the world just because you're scared you're going to be caught in the crossfire. If that's true, then we'd all be like those crazy preppers putting bunkers in our backyards and hiding out under there for all of our lives. That's not living. Every day I walk around knowing that I could get, like, let me tell you my mindset of things. I walk around my house, my life, every day, knowing that, out of nowhere, a car could lose control because some crazy lunatic is speeding and drunk, and he could plow through the front of my house and kill me while I'm trying to make dinner. Or I could be walking around my house, I slip on one of the dog toys, fall back, crack my skull, and then bust my whole head open and bleed out because there's no one living here at my house with me, except my dogs. I get in my car, I could be driving down the road again. Drunk driver could come and T-bone me and kill me instantly, crush my body entirely. I could walk down the street in a mall one day and some crazy psycho that just never got noticed by law enforcement or medical professionals walks up behind me with a .45 pistol and shoots me in the back of the head. I could die any moment. I've come close to death a few times in my life. I've nearly busted my spine. I've nearly cracked my neck. I've nearly gotten shot a couple times. I've almost been bitten by venomous snakes. I almost ran into fucking wild bears in Alaska. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking on that one. I was up in Alaska. I have come close to death multiple times, and I'm still not scared of it. When my time comes, my time will come. There's no point in me worrying about it. I live my life every day like, you know what? Who cares? I'm gonna enjoy myself. Live life as the best way we can. And nuclear power is it's so much better than a lot of other alternatives. Nuclear power could get us off petroleum. Then we can stop messing around in the Middle East. Nuclear power can give us clean energy that powers our cities, can power our cars, that can power everything. I'm not talking Fallout levels of like nuclear reliance. Fuck that shit. But definitely a world where we can actively like stop caring about fuel. We're approaching a fuel crisis. The Middle East is running out of oil. And here's the thing. Here's the reason why there's a crisis. Because there are still great numbers of fuel reserves. Hell, there are so many oil fields under the U.S. and most Western nations. We could last for hundreds of years still using fossil fuels. But there's a reason we don't, and we mainly rely on the Middle Eastern oil. And that comes down to the fact of, again, as that nuclear engineer said in Chernobyl, Middle Eastern oil is a lot cheaper. I wonder why that is. Yeah. It's not like those guys in the Middle East use things like, you know, healthcare, benefits, overtime, and fair wages and unions, right? They don't need it, right? Gotta love outsourcing. Maximum profit, absolute assholism. But yes. Living life in fear of nuclear power because of an incident by a cheapskate nation is not how we do things. It's not how we should do things. And I just saw a message from my girlfriend. What is she saying? Oh. Sorry, I'm just something important that I had very little faith in. Apparently, is now showing up. That I'm impressed. Yay! I hope. Yeah, I'll be watching my mailbox big time tomorrow. Whew. Anyway, back to topic. Nuclear power, in my opinion, is amazing. And do I think it belongs in everything? Like, do I want nuclear-powered cars and planes? No, I don't. But maybe cutting back our fuel for, like, say, our cities and some of our stuff. And, I mean, again, we've been using nuclear power safely for years now. The only ones that have really had major incidents are, again, the Soviets. Communist nations. I wonder why. We must spread world revolution. Give money and shit to everybody. Oh my god. But oh my god. Oh, fuck me. I did not expect to get on this tangent today, but it was fun. But I think I'm going to leave it with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I've given you some stuff to research. And here's the thing. There are things in here I probably have said that are wrong. I'm not going to say myself I am an expert. I am no expert. I am an idiot on the internet who is simply likes to research and to make my own opinions. These were strictly my opinions. If there are other articles that say that I'm wrong or shit like that, I encourage you to take them over me or bring them to my attention. It's interesting. I always like to hear different opinions, and I am not, and unlike some people out there, I don't mind when my opinions or my ideas are wrong or incorrect, and I don't mind being corrected. It helps me learn. Yes, I'm above ever. Yes, I like to be said. Please prove me wrong. Prove me wrong about things. I want to see shit. I would encourage people to go check out shit for themselves. Do the research yourself. That's what I'm mainly here to do. I get you interested about something, and then I want you to go fact check me. And when I'm wrong, please tell me. But I'm getting tired, I'm getting hungry, and I want to go charge some stuff so I can hop on VR tonight. So, thank you everyone for watching. This was actually a lot of fun. I might have to do this again with some other people. So, take it easy everybody, and I will see you guys all in the next stream.